Most people see rockets and think of science fiction. Elon Musk saw a problem that needed to be solved. He believed space travel had to get much cheaper. At the time, launching rockets cost an unbelievable amount of money. The numbers looked so big that almost everyone accepted them as normal. Musk did not. His real dream was never just building a company. He wanted humans to become a multi-planet species. In his mind, Mars was the long-term goal. After PayPal was sold, Musk had money to bet on a huge idea. Instead of playing it safe, he put around $100 million into SpaceX. That decision changed his life. At first, Musk tried a shortcut. He went looking for cheap Russian rockets that he could buy and use. It seemed faster than building everything from scratch. But the deal did not go the way he hoped. The meetings were difficult and the offers were not attractive. Musk walked away frustrated. For many people, that would have been the end of the dream. The rocket business looked too expensive, too political, and too hard. But Musk made a different choice. He decided that if he could not buy affordable rockets, he would build them himself. That sounds crazy at first, but that moment became the true beginning of SpaceX. So Musk started learning. He read deeply, studied hard, and treated rocket science like a problem he could break apart. He was not guessing anymore. He went through propulsion books and engineering material line by line. He wanted to understand how rockets actually worked. He was building knowledge from the ground up. He also spoke with experts who had spent years in aerospace. Instead of pretending to know everything, he asked questions and listened closely. That helped him move faster. The goal was not just to admire rockets. The goal was to understand what made them expensive, difficult, and slow to build. Once you understand the problem, you can attack it. And the mission stayed simple in Musk: build the transportation system first, then use it to open the road to Mars. In 2002, SpaceX was officially founded. It started as a bold idea with a tiny team and a giant target. Almost nobody expected it to win. Musk was risking a massive part of his PayPal fortune. He was not investing casually. He was going all in on a company that could easily fail. That early version of SpaceX was built around one huge belief: space travel did not have to stay expensive forever. The rules could be rewritten. Musk started asking a simple question: why are rockets so expensive in the first place? That question led him to one of his biggest business ideas. He looked at the raw materials inside a rocket. Aluminum, titanium, copper, and carbon fiber were valuable but not insanely expensive, so something in the system was broken. That was the heart of first principles thinking. Instead of accepting the final price, he broke the rocket down into basic parts, and the numbers suddenly looked very different. Musk realized the materials cost only a small fraction of a finished rocket, so he asked an uncomfortable question: if the ingredients are affordable, why is the final product so costly? From there, SpaceX focused on designing smarter, simpler hardware. The company wanted parts it could understand, improve, and build faster. That mindset shaped everything. Then came another important strategy. Instead of outsourcing most of the work like traditional aerospace companies, SpaceX wanted much more control. That meant building more inside the company. This is called vertical integration. SpaceX designed a huge amount of its systems in-house and built many critical assemblies itself. That made it easier to move quickly and cut delays. Its factory in Hawthorne became a major part of the plan. Engineers, machines, parts, and testing could stay close together. That reduced friction between idea and execution. Musk also hired ambitious young engineers. He wanted people who were hungry, fast, and willing to solve hard problems. SpaceX became a place for intense builders. At the same time, he brought in real experts. One key early figure was propulsion specialist Tom Mueller. Talent like that gave the company serious technical muscle. The mix was unusual but powerful. Young energy met veteran experience. That combination helped SpaceX move fast without flying completely blind. The culture was intense from the start. Long nights, fast deadlines, and constant pressure became normal. It was not comfortable, but it pushed the team forward. Every part mattered. Engines, structures, systems, and manufacturing choices all had to work together. SpaceX was not just building rockets, it was building a new way to build rockets. Its first launch vehicle was Falcon 1. This was a much smaller rocket than the giants used by legacy players. But it was the first real test of the company's ideas. Falcon 1 was supposed to prove that a private company could compete in space. It also had to prove that lower-cost engineering could still work. That was a lot to ask from one rocket. Musk even pushed hard to get attention from government customers. Early contracts mattered because they brought money and credibility. SpaceX needed both. Then came the moment every rocket company faces, the launch countdown. Years of work were about to be tested in minutes. The first Falcon 1 launch looked promising at the start, but the mission failed before reaching orbit. For a young company, that hit hard. Failure in space is brutal. It burns hash, damages confidence, and creates headlines that can kill momentum. SpaceX had just learned that the hard way. But Musk did not stop. He pushed the team to learn from the failure and fix the flaws. The company treated mistakes like engineering problems, not final verdicts. So they reviewed data, checked hardware, and kept improving the design. This test, fly, fix rhythm became part of SpaceX's DNA. Fast iteration was the plan. The team rebuilt, adjusted, and prepared again. Every bolt and every engine detail suddenly mattered even more. They were still alive, but the pressure was rising. The second attempt also failed to reach orbit. That meant the company was now carrying two painful losses. The dream was getting expensive. By this point, the emotional strain was huge. People were exhausted, and failure was no longer just technical, it was financial. Still, Musk refused to quit. He believed the company was close, so SpaceX kept working, even when many outsiders thought it was finished. Then came launch number 3. This was another critical chance to prove the company belonged in the space business. The stakes were now extremely high. And once again, Falcon 1 failed. 3 launches, 3 failures. For most startups, that would have been the end. SpaceX was running dangerously low on money. Bankruptcy was no longer a dramatic word. It was a real possibility. Imagine the pressure in that room. A company, a mission, and years of work were hanging by a thread. One more try had to count. Musk gathered the team and kept them moving. He pushed hard, and sometimes brutally, but the message was simple. Fix it, launch again, and do not give up. That final preparation for Falcon 1's 4th flight was different. The company knew it might be the last chance. Every step carried real urgency. Then the rocket lifted off again. Everyone watched with the same question in mind. Would this finally be the one? This time, Falcon 1 reached orbit. SpaceX became the first privately funded company to send a liquid-fueled rocket into orbit. It was a historic breakthrough. The success changed everything. It proved the company could actually deliver, and it arrived just before the money ran out. Soon after, NASA awarded SpaceX a major contract. That deal gave the company the financial oxygen it desperately needed. It did not just help SpaceX grow, it helped save it. This was the turning point. SpaceX had survived the edge of collapse. Now it had a real path forward. Next came Falcon 9. It was bigger, stronger, and built for much more serious missions. SpaceX was no longer only trying to survive. The company also developed Dragon. That spacecraft would carry cargo and later astronauts. Suddenly, SpaceX was building a full transportation system. Its missions to the International Space Station became a huge milestone. SpaceX was now doing work once handled only by major government programs. The startup had entered the big leagues. That credibility mattered. It showed customers, investors, and governments that SpaceX could be trusted with real missions. The company was becoming essential. But Musk wanted more than launches. He wanted reusability. If rockets could land and fly again, space travel could become far more economical. That idea sounded impossible to many people. Rockets were supposed to launch once and be thrown away. SpaceX wanted to break that habit. When Falcon 9 boosters started landing, the industry had to pay attention.
A rocket stage was no longer just disposable hardware, it became a reusable asset. That changed the economics. If you reuse the expensive part, your cost per launch can fall dramatically. This was one of SpaceX's biggest breakthroughs.
Lower launch costs did more than help SpaceX. They opened the door for more satellites, more missions, and more commercial activity in space. Cheaper access changes the whole market. And because SpaceX controlled so much of its design and production, it could move quickly. More launches meant more learning. More learning meant faster improvement. This is where vertical integration really paid off. Engineers and manufacturing teams could solve problems under one roof. That speed became a competitive weapon. Soon, SpaceX was not only launching rockets, it was building a broader space business. The company started shaping communications, transport, and national space access. Starlink added another layer to the strategy. SpaceX could launch its own satellites on its own rockets. That is a powerful business loop. Crewed missions pushed the company even further. Carrying astronauts is a very different level of trust. SpaceX had gone from underdog to central player. Then came Starship, the giant next step. This was the rocket meant to push the Mars dream much farther. Bigger ambition needed bigger hardware. SpaceX also focused on building what Musk calls the machine that builds the machine. In other words, the factory itself had to become world-class. Production speed matters as much as design. That thinking is why manufacturing became part of the innovation story. SpaceX did not only want a better rocket, it wanted a better system for producing rockets again and again. The roadmap was always bigger than Earth orbit. First low Earth orbit, then the Moon, then Mars. The transportation ladder had to be built one rung at a time. The Moon matters because it helps test deeper space operations. Longer missions, new landing systems, and new logistics all teach valuable lessons. It is a stepping stone. But Mars remains the emotional center of the story. That dream is what made SpaceX different from the beginning. It was never only about rockets. Of course, the journey has always involved huge risk. Space hardware fails, timelines slip, and bold promises can be much harder to fulfill than to announce. Still, SpaceX changed the rules of the industry. It challenged the old assumption that launches had to be painfully expensive and painfully slow. That alone is a massive legacy. If you boil the SpaceX strategy down, it looks surprisingly simple. First principles, strong engineers, in-house control, reusable rockets, and extreme persistence. Those ideas powered the company. The story is not clean or easy. It includes pressure, controversy, near collapse, and relentless demands. But it also shows what happens when someone refuses to accept industry norms. That may be the biggest lesson here. Sometimes the winning move is not adding one small improvement. Sometimes it is questioning the whole system. Musk started with a Mars dream and a basic question about cost. SpaceX turned that question into a company that reshaped access to space. The mission is still unfinished. And that is why people keep watching SpaceX. It is not just building rockets, it is trying to redesign the future of space travel. Whether you admire the strategy or criticize the style, the impact is undeniable. SpaceX proved that old industries can be rebuilt from first principles, and that idea reaches far beyond rockets.